This is your time. You worked very hard to get where you are, an inspiration to many, a mentor, a rainmaker, and a successful boss. But the one thing you've never done well is now the one skill you have to learn: public speaking. Great leaders throughout time have always shown their power from the stage. Now, it's the most essential ability for anybody to be seen as a change maker, industry expert, high achiever, or thought leader. Do you have a fear of public speaking? Are you missing out? Does your tribe need a chief executive officer who can command and motivate from on stage? Is your message getting lost because you need to be able to present from conferences, events, and global forums? My name is Dave Crane. I've worked on stage for over 4 decades. I've done every kind of entertainment, and I train leaders around the world to find their voice, realize their power, and dominate their industry. I've worked alongside some of the smartest names and most respected business coaches in the world. I train world leaders, industry experts, and high achievers to speak. What do you need? Do you need to share an idea, a theory, a formula, or an invention? Do you need to position yourself among the best of your peers as a key voice to lead into the digital age? Do you need to elevate and grow your personal brand? Are you ready to share stages and concepts among the most innovative minds, producing viral videos and great speeches on a global scale? Most leaders who are great communicators fail with a microphone because they don't know stagecraft. They don't know how to engage, entertain, and motivate large crowds. But when you do know how, it's just like breathing. The one last investment missing from your portfolio isn't new tech, blockchain, stocks, shares, or real estate. It's in you. This is the time to create your legacy. You've survived recessions, tough times, hard knocks, and come back fighting. So share your story. It's your time to shine. Imagine your tribe, your adoring fans and followers, engaging audiences, empowered teams, motivated staff, and inspired investors every time you take to the stage. They know what makes you a global leader too. Once we've worked together, whenever you get the chance to speak, you'll change minds, change lives, and change industries. Are you ready to create your legend? It's your time. Let's talk today. My name is Dave Crane. Hello, I'm Dave Crane because it says so all over the show, and welcome to Speak on Stage. Today is a combination of things. It's going to be interesting for you, it's going to be an eye-opener, it's slightly different, and it's all about the ka-ching. You're about to, ability to make money and to squeeze the industry you're in to be able to make more than you've ever made before. The actual show is this, just in case you haven't seen it. It's all about the survival skill sets you're going to need in 2021, not even 2020. It's about the stuff you need to have now to be able to make sure that you've got an impact coming next year and beyond. And there are a ton of different things we're going to be looking at in order to make this happen for you. In a few moments, we're going to be looking at the second wave and what that would actually mean, a second wave of coronavirus, how it would evolve, how it would be challenging for you, what it may mean if it comes, and what might stop it from coming along, which is kind of interesting because you hear so many conflicting views depending on people's own political stances. Because obviously some people want it just to disappear. We all do, but at the same time you don't want to really go out there and say, it's fine, it was all a big hoax, and then die. So, well, I assume you don't, because then none of that will be yours anymore, and you'll be... It shouldn't be called a stress toy. It should be called a sniff toy. Because when I go like that, in fact, look. I don't know why I did that. I did it yesterday. It looks really funny. It just looked like I'd been gagged. Anyway, back to my money. So, two things we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at the second wave of coronavirus. We're also going to be looking at a couple of different ways to move you forward, including what the World Economic Forum is warning about the recovery and the recessions. There's three kinds of recessions that we have to deal with. Any of them could happen, and so as things progress, you'll be able to understand the best reaction that you can make. We'll also be looking at this, which is kind of powerful as well. We'll be looking at 5 steps in which you can start a business and get it straight out to the market, bang, 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 as a side hustle if you're already existing in a business, or if you find yourself lost in a job, or you want to start a job because you want to get extra income because maybe your partner's having a tough time, or you've had your normal company has reduced its wages, so you've got to find a way to react to it. We'll be giving a crash course on how to get stuck into that. And as always, I'll be sharing a ton of different stuff, including the essential skill sets you need to have in order to be very effective in 2021. And these are taken again from the World Economic Forum, where I did a lot of studying yesterday, since yesterday's show. Hope you enjoyed yesterday's show. If you haven't seen it, it's all about reinvention. Everything I do is all about reinvention. Become a speaker. The faster you become a speaker, the faster you get to make an argument, you find your voice, you get your mindset in place, you position yourself as an introvert, and people want to work with you and they gravitate towards working with you. It's dead simple. It's not just about going la la la. Well, it's a singer, not a speaker. It's not just about speaking, it's about communicating. And right now, the most effective people are those who are able to hold an audience and do it on video more than anything. That's the reason for doing this show. We broadcast live out to LinkedIn, which is where you're probably watching me right now, or to YouTube, where you might be watching me. Subscribe to that, by the way, in case you haven't already. Also to Facebook. Hello on Facebook. Start a watch party, please do. You're probably already at mine. And also to Periscope, which puts us on Twitter, and also Instagram later on. So they're the places you can find us. I love your comments. Always tell me where you're from. That's great. Yesterday we had crazy conversations going on. I always welcome them, but sometimes there's a bit of that. You know what I mean? A little bit too much of that going on. And I don't mean in a horrible way. I love it, but often we have to. Let me put it in perspective. If this was a cotton bud, and you were to put it in your ear to clean your ear, would you stop when it came out the other side, like that, or would you stop when it feels a little bit resistance? I just get the feeling some people don't stop pushing. Not saying anything else. Rawr! So today's show is semi-serious, but also deadly serious, because it's really about how you think about what's going on. I never dwell too heavily on the actual the financial worries that you may be going through, or the mental stress you may be going through. I will do stuff on that specifically, mental health and financial ways of recovery, and also of how to reduce debt fast, and lots of things like that. We will be bringing up in future shows as well. And tomorrow's show is kind of exciting. It's how to become, how to get a rock star attitude. So if you ever wanted to be able to turn around and say, right, I'm going to get to the top of my industry, I'm going to be seen as an industry icon, I want to be positioned really well so people come to me all the time for advice or to do business with me, there's a set plan for doing it. And I've taken it from looking at the big heads of industries, I've taken it from looking at the big rock stars in real life. So people from Alice Cooper to Rolling Stones to Ariana Grande, Justin Bieber, you name them, all the rappers, all the people who you've seen positioned really well, they all do the same thing. And I'm going to share with you exactly what that is so you can use it in your own industry. Doesn't mean you've got to play guitar when you walk into the office. That would be weird. Plus also your office has probably got everybody at home. So when you're on a meeting in Zoom, you've got like all these different banks of people. Hi everybody, how are you? Great. Now here's Wonderwall. Ding, 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 ding. Well, it's not a banjo. Well, it's not anything in my hands, but you know what I'm saying. So the idea is very much about getting you so you're positioned, so you can really reposition yourself. But also, it's a journey, it's an adventure. It's not just saying, here I am, because everyone goes, yeah, look at your hands. You've got to be able to turn and say, here I am. This is what it means to you to connect with me and do business with me. And people go, oh, take my cash. In fact, I've not done this for a while, have I? Shave my cake. That sounds disgusting. Hi, I'm Ringo. Don't know why I chose Ringo. He's a Beatle, isn't he? And he's also Johnny Depp in that cartoon. Hi, I'm Ringo. Would you like to shave my cake? Now, as I do this, you're probably thinking, I don't know what shave your cake means, Dave. And you might even want to Google it. Google shave my cake. And you know what will show up? Nothing. I made it up. I hope. It might mean something terrible, in which case I don't know where I got it from, and I demand that you don't hold it against me, and let's move on. Next up, we're going to look at what the second pandemic wave could do to the world economy if it comes. Now, I'm not going to be talking about politics. This is not the intention. I steer away from politics, and we might do stuff on the American elections closer to the date, but it will be from a speaker's point of view in terms of analysing how politicians position themselves, what they say. I work with politicians, by the way. I work with a lot of ambassadors from different embassies all around the world. And a lot of top CEOs and entrepreneurial decision makers. And I always take things from a point of view of neutrality, because every single person in front of a microphone gives away clues as to what they do well and what they do badly. So in order for me to be effective, I don't want to get into what your politics are, because that ruin. If you and I don't get on with politics or on certain subjects, that's fine. But what I don't want to do is, because we're not the same type of whatever, you stop watching the show and you reduce your ability to be able to earn well for you and your family. I don't want that. So I'd rather not bring politics into it. I'd rather you just look at the funny man with the dreadlocks and the glasses who looks a little bit too beardy for his own view. In fact, I should have shaved. Look at that. It looks animal. Not good, it's animal. So next up, anyway, as I said, we're going to look at the second pandemic, and I'll put my teeth in during this.
Of the last 5 pandemics the world has faced in about a century, 4 had multiple waves of infection outbreaks. In some cases, the second or third waves turned out to be far more severe than the first. As governments around the world weigh the trade-offs between reopening their economies and continuing lockdown restrictions, what can we learn from history? The worst pandemic in modern history, the Spanish flu, which is estimated to have infected a third of the world's population, had 3 waves of infection. The first wave was in the spring of 1918, while the second wave happened in autumn that year. The third wave occurred a few months later, which lasted till the spring of 1919. You can see the pandemic peaked in the highly fatal second wave, which was responsible for most of the deaths. Many health experts have said that history may repeat itself. The World Health Organization has warned that the worst of the COVID-19 pandemic is yet to come. But with widespread unemployment and many companies battling to stay afloat, there are calls to end the social restrictions and reopen the economy. Tesla CEO Elon Musk has also lashed out at government stay-at-home orders as fascist, and that's a feeling shared by an increasing number of Americans.
You heard Elon Musk's comments. I think that reflects a growing sentiment in this country where people want this to be over, and so that's going to tug against what the governors have to do. They have tough decisions to face.
However, many analysts have warned against reopening the economy too soon, which may derail current efforts to stem the crisis. The island of Hokkaido in the northern part of Japan was forced back into a lockdown after a second wave hit the region more severely than the first. Singapore, which was lauded for its early efforts to stem the pandemic, also recorded a second wave of infections in March, mainly from imported cases and migrant workers living in packed dormitories. A survey of more than 40 prominent economists in the US found that 80% agreed easing severe lockdowns when infection risk remains high would lead to greater economic damage. As the debate over when to reopen the economy drags on, the Spanish flu offers some clues. In 1918, the US had no coordinated pandemic plans at a federal level. It was therefore left to local authorities to decide how and when to intervene to prevent the spread of the disease. The social distancing measures over a century ago are similar to the modern-day restrictions, such as the closure of schools, offices, and the banning of mass gatherings. Because tackling the infection spread was orchestrated at a local level, the interventions varied widely. This led to mortality rates and the pace of economic recovery differing from city to city at the end of the pandemic. In 1917, a year before the Spanish flu outbreak, Philadelphia and St. Louis have very similar mortality rates from influenza and pneumonia. However, when the pandemic broke a year later, the two cities have very different approaches to tackling the outbreak. Philadelphia was very late to implement social restrictions and even allowed a large street parade involving some 200,000 people to go ahead in the middle of the outbreak. 3 days after the parade, every bed was filled in Philadelphia's 31 hospitals. In contrast, St. Louis officials intervened quickly, resulting in a much lower death rate. The evidence also shows that cities that intervened sooner and more decisively saw their economies grow faster after the pandemic was over. For instance, this graph shows how cities with stricter social distancing measures recovered faster 1 year after the 1918 pandemic. However, cities in red with more lenient measures generally performed worse. In cities that implemented social distancing measures quickly and for longer, manufacturing activity and banking assets also saw increased growth a year after the pandemic was over. The evidence suggests that aggressive social distancing measures not only reduced mortality rates, but were also economically beneficial. While there are important economic lessons to be learnt from the Spanish flu of 1918, it's difficult to compare that pandemic, which occurred more than 100 years ago, with the coronavirus pandemic of today. Advances in technology, global supply chains, the larger role of services, and better communication tools may ease the economic fallout significantly, which limits direct comparisons between the two pandemics. However, the evidence does imply that decisive social restrictions to reduce the severity of a pandemic plays a key role in the economic recovery process. So how can both livelihoods and lives be saved? While there are no easy answers, looking into the past offers a glimpse into the future. After all, a healthy economy doesn't happen without a healthy population. Hi guys, thanks for watching our video. If there are any topics you'd like us to cover in the future, comment below the video to let us know. And remember, don't forget to subscribe.
I hope you found that interesting. I was just wondering, while I was watching that really informative video about the second potential wave, why Tom Chitty is in a field. I mean, social distancing is one thing, but do you really have to sit in a field, live under a tree, and just get away from people that much? Just a thought. So, with that in mind, it's worth considering that there are a number of challenges that are different from what we faced 100 years ago, because we have the ability to work from home. We have the ability with electronic devices to run a proper business without actually going to a bricks and mortar facility in order to earn. We also don't have 200,000 people gathering the same way as they did there in Philadelphia. Even though there are some people doing social gatherings, and certainly in lockdown that stopped, but afterwards people are coming back together. I think in many cases, certainly in the UAE, they've got very strict laws about what conditions every single event that comes together. You have to have social distancing, you have to have everybody tested, you have to make sure that you've got a license to cover everything, to make sure that it is being looked after, so there's no sly things going on, to make sure that people can accidentally catch it because people didn't take the right kind of precautions. So I do feel that in many ways it is being looked after much better than it would be before, certainly in places like the UAE, but I don't know what that will be like for your particular place. I think you have to make your own decision on whether people were realistic from the very beginning and took precautions at the very beginning to inform people, and also didn't live in a world of denial. Next up, we're going to look at the 3 types of recession that will come. One of them will come, and depending on which one it is, you'll know how to react to it and how to deal with it better. Now, I'm a bit more serious now because it really matters. I always believe the best way to move forward out of this is being able to find your voice and to speak and communicate, because then you can position yourself as a leader, an industry expert, and people will gravitate towards you. When it comes to getting stuff done, they want to get stuff done with you. I'm not just talking about me in this particular situation. I'm talking about you learning to speak and learning to be more effective, rather than just hoping that people get it right and you've got no control over it. The one thing that allows me to not feel under the weather, depending on the weather, is the fact that I do believe I've got control over everything that happens in my own life. But we don't have a control over the environment outside of us as to what happens next. And that's why with the next video, I want to share with you the view of the 3 different types of recessions. Love your thoughts, love your opinions, and I love you to like everything that feels strong to you, share it and comment. It's Speak on Stage.
If you're worried about the economic toll of the coronavirus crisis, you're not alone. It's scary. There is no clear forecast, and each country's experience will be different. Here's what we do know. A steady flow of money, goods, services, and the people to make them flow is essential to a healthy economy. And that flow is severed right now by life-saving stay-at-home orders. Recession is inevitable, but what kind of recession it will be and what recovery might look like is still unclear. To help imagine what could happen, authors from Boston Consulting Group point out that recessions and their recoveries come in various shock shapes. These are determined by how hard a crisis hits the supply side of an economy. That's an economy's inputs, capital, like machinery, factories, software, labor, or workers, plus productivity, or how we use labor and capital productively. The harder the supply side is hit, the more credit is interrupted, meaning less money is injected in the form of loans to businesses and individuals to fuel investment, and the more difficult it is for productivity to recover. From best to worst, we have V, U, and L recession shock shapes. The V shape is a one-time dip. If credit can continue to flow, productivity and labor are less affected. You can see that growth dips but recovers to its pre-crisis level and rate. The U shape is much more costly. Credit flow is disrupted and growth drops precipitously, never rebounding to its pre-crisis path. The rate of growth recovers, see how the slopes are the same, but a large gap between the old and new paths represents one-off damage to the economy's supply side. The L shape is the worst. Credit is severely disrupted, not once but perpetually, and there is very little new investment. This economy never recovers its prior output path, and the rate of growth also declines. The crisis leaves permanent structural damage to the economy's supply side. These examples represent crises that started in the financial sector, disrupting credit flow and thus capital growth. We have some off-the-shelf policies for dealing with these. However, we are now in uncharted territory with a double risk of a financial system shock and an epic freeze of the real economy, the households, firms, and government that deliver real physical goods and services. Countries have no existing playbook for dealing with this double shock. Months of necessary social distancing raises the risk of both types of problems, which can feed off each other in dangerous ways. For example, a prolonged crisis can drive up real economy bankruptcies of everyday people and firms, making it harder for financial systems to manage. And a financial system crisis would starve the real economy of credit, which could cripple investment and ultimately growth. In this combined crisis, capital does not grow, pushing the economy towards a U-shape. Not good. However, we can head off a U or L-shaped recovery and lessen the intensity of the crisis. How? Primarily, innovation. On the medical side, vaccines, treatments, and capacity innovations are needed to save lives and end the economic damage caused by social distancing. On the economic side, in addition to a vigorous and efficient policy response, we will need policy innovations. For example, in the U.S., the $2 trillion stimulus bill is just a start. We will need innovative ways to deliver that money to those who need it, since never before have policymakers had to help such large numbers of firms and households. For example, the so-called discount windows that allow unlimited access to funding for the financial sector could be replicated for households and firms in the real economy so that they can stay afloat. Zero-interest bridge loans to households and firms, a moratorium on mortgage payments for residential and commercial borrowers. These are potential solutions that could help make a real difference. The economic goal is to keep our shock shape closer to a V and further away from a U or an L. Speedy, well-executed medical and policy innovations are our best hope to save the most lives and avoid permanent economic damage.
So welcome back to Speak on Stage. There we're looking at the potential 3 scenarios and the different recovery rates that are involved, regardless of what's facing you right now, regardless of which of those 3 things happens, you have no choice but to decide to move forward. I would always say, and I've said it for many years, you should have 1.5 jobs, a side hustle. I know that before we had any of the pandemic stuff in the US, about 53 million people, 54 million people had a side hustle. A side hustle, if you don't know, is another job on the side that you did to earn money or just to have a hobby that could be monetized if you decide to. So for instance, you might be grooming dogs, or you might be knitting slippers, or you could be walking, knitting dogs. You could be mowing next door's lawn or washing cars. Or maybe you start an online store. Or maybe you have another business where you're looking after some products overseas with a team that's doing stuff and you market it for them. Maybe you're doing affiliate sales. So you have a product from somebody else, you do a lot of videos and you market it to somebody else, and you get a commission on the back of it. There's a number of different business models, and I will investigate and share with you some of the ones I think are most effective in future episodes. I love your comments, by the way, thank you so much. And every time I say something that is of use to you, please feel free to like it and share this with people who might find this interesting. Today's show is slightly different. It's really about survival. It's really about the effect that you can have to get your act together with all the challenges that we've got right now, but also right now is the correct time to start making a difference to what we're going to have to face in a year's time and beyond. Because if you don't start making steps towards it, you felt how challenging the lockdown was. The lockdown doesn't seem like it's come out. Even if, like in Dubai, they've removed it and you can go out, you can shop, you'd be safe, socially distanced and wear your masks and everything, it kind of feels like everything's still slow in comparison to the way it was before. And I don't think we'll ever see it just snap straight back, but we will over time realize that, oh, we're back in it. This is normal. Do you remember it used to be like this before? And it might be next year, it might be in 6 months, it might be in 5 years' time. We don't know, and I think it will vary depending on the country you're in and the attitude that people have towards fixing the problem early and moving on. So as I mentioned before at the very beginning, I think it's important to be able to have some kind of strategy to be able to open up some kind of thing for yourself. So the next 2 sections, first one's going to be about starting a new business. The second one is going to be about what skill sets you need to learn to stay on top of the game in your existing business, or be able to translate to be more effective in what is coming up in the next 12 to 24 months worth of commerce and potential situations around the world. So first of all, let's look at this. 5 steps on how to start a business and get it to market quick and lean. First on the rules for this, and this is by the way from entrepreneur.com, first thing you got to do is make sure you're building something that people want. I always say when it comes to learning public speaking and performing on stage, first question is, what do people want? Don't give them what you want to give them because they might not want it. Ask them what they want, find out what they want and give them that. So if you're creating a business and you're thinking, wow, there's a gap for this, why don't I do flying machines? Well, does anybody need a flying machine? Not really, they're not really going out. If you look at the airline industry right now, and I don't mean disrespect, I've got lots of friends affected by it, lots of people who are really suffering from the airline industry. Another flying machine, we've got planes that aren't moving all around the world as a direct result of the people not traveling because they don't like the idea of going in lockdown, and also the increased prices, and people aren't able to travel for lots of different reasons. So that's a huge challenge. So make sure you're producing something that people have a need for. And with that, we'll be looking at in the future episodes all the in-demand industries that you can turn around and work in now. Things like, I mean, if you look at what Amazon's doing, yeah, fantastic. With a load of products they've pretty much mopped up retail, but catering's really effective. Mental health is huge as well. That's going to be something you should really consider, especially if you've been in that mental health space. If you're not in that mental health space, but you feel you could actually spread the word and sell products like hypnotherapy, which I do hypnotherapy, or meditation, or even essential oils for people just to feel more relaxed at home. These are things that are worth looking at. People are getting stressed. The second wave of the pandemic just smells so nice. The second wave of the pandemic is not really going to be actually just about the disease. It's actually about mental health. That's what's going to really hit people, whether the disease comes or not. It's just this pressure that people are under. And if you're feeling it already, I apologize for bringing it up. I'm just trying to share it with people because I want as much as possible for people to be prepared. And also I'll be giving solutions on how you can move forward and deal with it better. Okay, first of all, speak to people and get feedback. If you've got a great idea and you think it's amazing, it might be a great idea for you. You might want to buy it, but will anybody else? Talk to people, talk to your clients, talk to your staff. This is zero cost. Talk to your clients, talk to your staff, throw it on social media if you trust everybody around you, which you shouldn't do because they're all a bit crazy, and get feedback. From feedback, you'll work out whether your product is viable or you need to twist it and change it or abandon it completely. You might find that in that space, there is a product that exists already, in which case, remember, you're talking to potentially 7 billion potential customers. Why do you have to build a wheel if everyone knows it's already round and you can buy wheels everywhere? Sell that to people who need wheels. Does that make sense? Cheers, by the way. If you've got your coffee, then chink, as you do. Chink 'em and drink 'em, as we used to say in the good old days when we actually went out and, did stuff in public with real people and so on. My Captain America mug, he said, trying to talk too soon and almost choking on his coffee. That beep beep isn't the same as, that's the money thing. That's what today's show is all about. It's all about getting you some money and less stress. It smells so good. Okay, once you've got the plan about what it is you want to do, get a landing page straight up. Get onto people. You can go to Fiverr.com, www.fiverr.com, and get somebody for $5, $10, $15, $20 to make a mock-up web page for you. If you're not ready to do that and you don't feel it's ready, then what you can do is just go to a social media page, open up something for your product, and start driving people with Facebook ads or whatever you decide to do to get people to start connecting with you. They've got to get you somewhere. It doesn't have to be a website, but a website is very useful, especially if you've got a product that you think is really unique and really good that people will want. Buy a domain that helps to sell it. The domain name doesn't have to be the name of the product. It could be a fixing of a problem. So for instance, as a hypnotherapist, one of my many products is fear of flying. So I could have fearofflying.com. So people will Google it and go, oh, I know what I need. I need something to sort out my problem. Fear of flying, losing weight, emotional challenges, whatever it is, getting over the lockdownfear.com. Think about the different options and go to GoDaddy. Go to GoDaddy.com. As it sounds, I should give details of this, but I've got fingers, but I can't really type. I can type it, but I'm not going to because then I'll get sidetracked because, oh, shiny. I'll forget you're there and you'll be really annoyed. So there we go. Just a quick swig of coffee because it's very nice. It's good. Just be happy I'm not having biscuits. In fact, I've almost finished my M&Ms. You didn't need to know that, and I can't believe I shared it with you. So going back to where we were before, get a landing page up and running. If you don't know how to do it, there are tons of freelancers around the world who will do all this stuff for you. The training and e-commerce. You can go to Fiverr, you can go to freelancer.com, or just Google website building. There'll be people based in your country, or even cheaper, people based overseas. And building up a team of overseas staff is fantastic because you don't have to worry about, hi, who are you? How was your day? Really? Are you coming in late to work? None of that stuff. You just give them a job, you pay them money, they do it for you, and they work with lots of other people who are also training them to get better at what they do and give them better service so you get better service as well. So it's worthwhile considering a different business model. All right. Does that make sense so far? Yes, Dave? Say yes, Dave. Go on, please. Go on. All right, number 4, find your customers today. Work it out. Without customers, you're wasting your time. Doesn't matter how good your product is, how good your website is, how wonderful it will be when the world starts appreciating your special cakey thing. Right, I'm going to ban this from the show. I cannot have my sniffy squeeze toy. Right, I'm going to change it now. I'm actually going to get rid of the smell of this squeeze toy, rid myself of it, and put it to one side over there. Okay? Now I've got sanitizer. I prefer the smell of sanitizer. Right then, so apart from my weird addictions while doing the show, by the way, welcome to Speak on Stage. My name is Dave Crane. I always share lots of intentional wisdom with you, but sometimes I get sidetracked with lots of different ways of making you money and getting you across the finishing line and making sure that everybody has a good time too. So find customers today, start working on that. Where are your customers? How can you find them? Think about this. Whenever you used to watch TV in the old days before we had streaming TV, remember you used to have to sit there, oh, Discovery Channel, let's have a look at that. Wow, great. Fantastic. Not if you're a Discovery fan, that's fantastic. But you know when you do stuff like that's in the jungle, and you've got the river going through, and Tarzan was fictitious, but the animals weren't. And so you'd have a river where inside of that you've got the alligators, up in the trees you've got the monkeys, lions, and you've got tigers. Well, not tigers because you're in a different country, unless it's the same zoo, but you wouldn't put all the animals together because they'd get eaten. But you'd have buffalo, you'd have hippopotami, and rhinoceroses, and you'd basically have all the animals going to the same watering hole to drink. Now, what would happen is they'd take turns, and they go at different times because they know that the big predators would eat them. So the big predators go at a certain time, and the other animals would choose to go en masse at a different time. And yes, they would be picked off sometimes, but they would also defend themselves better as a group, and they'd have better warning systems. Well, what you've got to find to get your customers is where are their watering holes. Now, I didn't say all this so you could go along and watch Discovery Channel with nothing wrong with that and have a look in the jungle. These people are not with the lions and the lions and the tigers and the bears. Not even the Tiger King. He won't be there. And the Lion King is a cartoon. Well, it's a real life cartoon, but it's still CGI, so it's still a cartoon technically. But the point is that your customers are all in a certain place, doing a certain thing. They're probably at home, but they're probably online looking at certain websites, and they probably have a community that they belong to. So think about your product. If you're creating, I don't know, puzzles to do at home, who would be your ideal client for the puzzles to do at home? Are they word puzzles? Are they picture puzzles? Are they very simple puzzles? Are they for children or are they for parents or both together? What websites do they go to? Can you advertise to those websites? Can you create an advert that is all about your puzzle games that people would want to see? Which people don't want them? If the people don't want them, don't try and persuade them. They won't get persuaded. Find out who your customers are, where they are, find the watering holes and market to them. Are you with me so far? Good, because otherwise this will go on forever. And number 5 is this: iterate on the product to develop something that clients really want. So once you've got your feedback, once you've got your ideas, once you've got the watering holes, once you've got something that will really change the world, spend time working on your product. Get it out there so you can get feedback, but always check with the feedback and mold it and change it and drop stuff you don't need, add extra bits. And it might mean that you're doing something completely unique, but it might mean that you're doing something that other people have already come to with the conclusions. Now, success leaves clues. As much as you can do, look at who's already doing stuff in the market. And if they're doing well, model what they do. So, for instance, if they're market leader and they're doing a certain business model, like, for instance, Amazon has changed retail. Now, Amazon doesn't cover everything. I think, well, probably does. But supposing it didn't cover sniff toys. Oh, that's a good idea. Supposing you're making a sniff toy. Who would want to buy your sniff toy? Work it out. People frustrated at home, addicts of sanitizer, whoever they are, someone somewhere would have an interest in this. You've got to find out who those people are and where they are, and then you just got to market to them. But as you're working it out, somebody might already be in that market producing something else for those people. They might be producing, I don't know, noisemakers at their desk. It might be that you're tapping into that home office market. People who work from home, who want to be distracted deliberately, who want to have a webcam in front of them, a webcam at the side like this one over here. Hello, I'm Dave Crane. How are you doing? Yeah, I know I ignore you. I don't ignore you deliberately. I just keep forgetting that you're there. You don't say anything. You're just a webcam. Yeah, I know you had a choice of other jobs. You could have gone to different houses, but you might still be in a box. You might still be in a warehouse. I brought you here. Shut up. So it might be a number of different reasons why you actually have that stuff going on, in which case consider that there will be clues all around about that avatar, that person who wants your stuff. What else would they want? Can you affiliate other products to make you a one-stop shop? So, for instance, if you've got sniff toys, can you put it with stress toys? Can you put it with mice? Like mine was dead yesterday, but today it's alive. And other things that people will have. Maybe a mat to put your stuff on. Maybe music you can play. So you can affiliate Spotify or some other thing like that. Think about it, because all those things can be sold, or they can be used as an incentive for people to want to work with you. Cool? Great. Love to have your thoughts, your ideas, and anything that you get from a show. Share it with me. Tell me where you're coming from. And remember to subscribe, like, follow, connect, and tell people all about Speak on Stage. Next, we're going to look at the skill sets you're going to need to survive in a very challenging 2021. So welcome back to Speak on Stage. My name's Dave Crane, and this particular picture you can see in front of you, I chose this one because it's my favourite TV show, or one of my favourite TV shows, The Walking Dead. And you can see Rick on his horse just about there, about here, right? And you can see a lot of zombies that have been added later on because it's not the original picture. That was him heading into Atlanta. And I've got friends in Atlanta. Hi! Rick's on the way, by the way, but not really, just in a TV show. This is just all CGI. But if he does turn up in town, then stay indoors because there's a couple of thousand zombies. So anyway, that's not going to help you make money, but it's just kind of funny for me. So, and The Walking Dead, the finale, the final bit, where Beta, because if you haven't watched it, then you won't know what I'm talking about. If you have watched it, Alpha... Well, it's a zombie movie. So it's a TV show. So Beta is descending on a hospital, I think it is, where all the goodies are hiding. Not the goodies as in Bill Oddie, Graham Garden, and Tim Brooke Taylor. And that's a joke for anybody who remembers the 1970s, which is only me. Okay, clearly I'll move on. So all the goodies are hiding, and there's a load of zombies all coming towards it, and Daryl's away, Carol's away, Barrel's away, and Chalk's away. No, there's no Chalk, there's no Barrel, but there's a Daryl and there's Carol. Keep up. And we don't know if they're going to come back in time. And the last episode was so exciting, and anything could have happened, and they hadn't finished doing the CGI before lockdown, so they couldn't give us the last episode, and we've been waiting about 4 months. Apparently, they're going to bring it out in October. Ah! Stress toys come back again. Right, let's get into it. Important, the 2021 year. Your essential skill sets that you're going to need. And this is from studying World Economic Forum all through the last 24 hours. First of all, futures literacy. What does that mean, Dave? Futures literacy means you have to be able to work out what the future is going to have. You've got to be able to look at everything that's coming through right now and pivot and change. So if you're looking at trends and say, right, people are now working from home, so therefore home delivery is kind of important, but when they do go out, they want to be able to go out and stay safe. So they're wearing masks, they're wearing gloves, they're keeping social distance, but they don't really like meeting people. Because why? Because everyone seems really horrible or really dangerous. Is there a way of bringing people closer together? What about people who don't speak a language very clearly, especially through a mask? What about if we made see-through masks? Which I know they're starting to make and make design masks as well. And we got a load of see-through masks on so people can see who you are. You put it on in one go, covers your eyes, it's like a visor, but it also has a thing like here. You can breathe through it. It's got a little thing on the back that allows you to ventilate, and these do exist as well, by the way. Expensive, but price will go right down. Imagine, you know those little fans that you get when you go on holiday and you hold a fan that's got a propeller? It's like a razor, I think, but no, it's a propeller. Imagine having one of them kind of built in to the system. So you put your mask on, it's battery run, and you get fresh air being circulated through your mask, but it's just covering your entire face, but you can breathe properly. So to most people, it doesn't look like you're wearing a mask. It just looks like you've got your head stuck in a goldfish ball. Just an idea. But your ability to interpret what's coming up and how that should translate into business is very important. That's number one. Number two, strategic thinking. Not only just thinking about what's coming up in the future, but how do you reposition everything? If this is coming up, what do I do with this now? How do I get my staffing to work out, my finances, which are going to change? That market I'm working with before is having challenges with their supply chain, and I might have to pivot anyway, because normally in the market I do 5 different things, 4 of them are no longer wanted by people. People don't want me to rent cars out to them because nobody wants to get in a car. They're all working from home. So that industry has gone down. But what can I give them that really works? What can I give them that would be more effective? Well, I can clean their cars. Why don't I just clean their cars? So there's lots of different ways of looking at it. Strategic thinking has always been an important part of leadership, and more now than ever, the people who are able to be early adopters, and I talked about this in a different show, of the pandemic problems and strategically work out where things are going are the ones that are still doing okay now. Everybody else who just went into lockdown and went, la 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 la, oh, Netflix. Wow, Gotham, I can watch that. 5 box sets, fantastic, bye. See you guys. Bye. Those people are suffering now because it hasn't changed. The world itself has got smaller and more difficult to navigate, but those who have got strategic thinking get it better. With me so far? I'd love to have your likes, your comments, your thoughts. All right, anticipation. Working out what is going to be coming up. Not just working out what it means when things are moving around you. What could it be? I think things are going to go in this direction. I think it's going to go in that direction. If that does happen, what can we put in place to make sure that we're going to be okay? Number 4, strategic foresight. Against all the stuff, the literacy is working out what's going on so you can understand it and read it, but also what do you do with your strategy? If we're here right now doing this, but over there something's going to happen, if it goes that way, what do we do? If it goes that way, what do we do? And how can we work towards it with our existing stuff? These are all new skills. I know it sounds ridiculous, and many people have used them, but not at the rate of change that we've got right now, because digitization is changing everything. Number 5 is digital communication. That's what I'm doing now. Public speaking is an essential skill for any leader. Communication is so important, but now you've got to do it through a laptop, through a Zoom, through video, through different ways of connecting. It's not easy to see people face to face, but it is easy to grow a business with staff all around the world if you know how to do digital stagecraft. Digital communication is not just going to be your ability to do this, it's going to be looking at the other things like augmented reality, artificial intelligence, mixed reality, and virtual reality. Those different things all take a different view of how you can communicate and where you're going to actually meet people. Are you going to try and meet them around their house? No. Are you just going to go into a laptop? Maybe. Or why don't you go into a virtual platform where all your staff can have avatars and you can have normal meetings, a normal expo, have a boardroom where you're looking at cartoon versions of all your staff, but you're still communicating and having this feeling that you're in the same room together. Different from Zoom. Zoom's fine, does a great job, same as Microsoft Teams and Google Meets. They're all very, very effective. But I think we're going to find some big changes coming soon. People are going to want more. And the technology that's been given a kick up the hiney recently because of the fact it was going to come in the next, 2 years, but it's arriving right now, will change the way you think about meetings and connections. Let's put it in perspective. If you're going to have a staff event, or an expo for your industry, normally you'd do it in a conference hall, yes? You'd have booths, you'd have a stage, you'd have speakers, blah, blah, blah. Now with virtual platforms, you can have that same thing put together, where you've got stage, you've got booths, all virtual, and your little characters can walk around. But consider a factor, if you have the ability to create a virtual platform and a virtual conference, why would you want to make it as boring as a reproduction of what we've left behind? Why not make it Narnia? Why not make it in space? Why not make it underwater? Why not make it so people are choosing their own cartoon characters, like a Comic-Con? Now, I know you're thinking, oh, Dave, that sounds ridiculous. It's not that ridiculous. If you do it right, and do it more effectively, and you do it with concerts and great speakers, and all sorts of different ways you can do it, suddenly the sky's the limit. Who wouldn't want to attend your event because you do it so differently when you do it virtually? You get where I'm coming from? So digital communication, number 5, is very important. Number 6, sustainability and climate insight. This is more important than ever before. I think that the lockdown has made the world a better place. A lot of the pollution has disappeared. A lot of the drilling and challenges of fossil fuels have gone right down, so things are recovering. But they'll come back again. The oceans are slightly better for not having so much rubbish thrown into them, but they're still pretty bad from beforehand. But the great thing about the next generation to me, because I'm an old fart, I think I'm Generation X, But millennials have a much more conscious insight about their relationship to the world and relationship to other people. So if you want to run a business and you don't think about sustainability, you don't think about climate change, you don't think about the fact that the world needs to recover from all the rubbish we've been throwing at it with carbon fuels and gas and plastics and stuff, then you're missing out, because that is a really empathetic attitude that people really do desire, that you must find. You must have it to be able to survive in future thinking. If you're saying, oh, it doesn't matter, don't worry about it, just dump it in the back garden, people will turn around to you and say, I don't want to work with you. It's because of people like you that were in lockdown, because you didn't take notice of the challenges that we had. And even if that's not fair, there's a lot of people who will be thinking that about you. Well, not about you, but about, you know what I mean. Cheers. I don't know why I checked that cup then. I was checking it for floaters at the bottom, but it was a perfectly clean cup, and it was a delicious cup of coffee, and not even any granules. Nothing, it's perfect. You didn't need to know that, and you don't care now. All right, number 7, social media marketing and video selling. So crucial. This is why I do a show on different platforms, Speak on Stage, because I want to be able to tell people about how they can improve their lives and also how they can become very effective speakers and industry experts. Video selling, creating videos that get people interested. Now, I might not have huge views. I might get between 1,000 and 2,000 views per day, which is not bad for doing this show. But remember, the show is about 45 minutes long to an hour long. So people don't just pop in and say, oh, 10 seconds, shiny, let's go off and do their thing. They stay with me for the journey, because what I've created here is actually an all-day breakfast show. What do you mean by that? Well, you know a breakfast show that you listen to when you drive to work on the radio? Well, this show is intended for you to grab a coffee, and while you're having your lunch, depending on different time of day, or your breakfast, or your evening meal, or you're chilling out, you can watch the show and get to learn something and hopefully spend some quality time with me. That's the aim, okay? That's why I designed it to be an all-day breakfast show. Or an all-day, it was actually an 11s show. 11s, which is probably something that doesn't exist anymore. But Winnie the Pooh, I think, talked about... you don't know Winnie the Pooh. Imagine a bear that walks around with t-shirt on but nothing below the waist. That's a really creepy way of look. Forget I ever said that about Winnie the Pooh. It's a lovely, cuddly. It was not lovely. It's a cuddly. It's not even real. Forget Winnie the Pooh. Just leave it. Let's talk about the money. Your ability to sell and create relationships with people on video is the bottom line. Get good at it. Get to be able to do it, because how else are you going to reach people? People want to watch videos now. I've talked to many clients who say I've been writing blogs and it doesn't get any results. Well, why do you think? It's not a video. People want it now, and they want it visual, and they want it to happen. And if you're not doing that and you're not getting with the program, they just go, you know what, I'm a bit bored, let's do something else. That's what I'm talking about. All right, then, problem solving. Number 8, which kind of goes through all the things we've had here, but problem solving is essential. Not just strategic thinking. Strategic is planning. Problem solving is, we have an issue here, how can we fix it? And you work on it on yourself, you work on it with your team, and you find a solution to stuff. Right now is solution problems. Everything's got a problem. You have a ton of problems, same as I have. Your way to navigate that and come out of it relatively unscathed at the other side is worth a lot of that to you. It's also worth a lot of that to companies, and a lot of that to people who would freelance you and have you coming in to work on strategic issues. If you can have that as an added extra, you come in, you solve their problem, but also you can help them with other problems strategically, because you know people, or you've been there before, they're going to want to hire you. Yep, cool. Number 9, self-regulation and motivation. You have to drive yourself. You have to be motivated every single day. This show is here to help you, to motivate you, and I do it every single day until the foreseeable future, where I just go, oh, I'll stay in bed instead. Until then, we'll carry on doing it. So your ability to think about what you need to do, keep yourself going. The tip I would give you is just keep the momentum going. Keep yourself occupied, keep yourself busy, learn what makes you happy, and do more of that every single day until you go blind, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, number 10, remote leadership and empathy. The bottom line is, you're not going to have an office the same way as you did before. Right now, 5% of the financial district in London has come back to work. Doesn't mean they're not working, doesn't mean they're not in an office, but they're in their home office or on their laptop, sitting at the sofa with the TV off, working every single day, working longer hours probably as well, and being interconnected with their clients, with their colleagues, with their boss, with their family. It's a different way of connecting, but you need to have empathy, and you need to know how to run a remote team. If you don't do that, if you don't stay on top of it and create a relationship and check in on them and understand that you can't boss them about and you don't have access to the water cooler conversations and people might not know what's going on, but you need to check on everybody, you end up in a situation where you'll lose teams and you'll lose staff. And that means that you get back to, you won't even know what's coming because you didn't check in on them. There's lots of different things to know. So remote leadership is very important. We may come back to offices, but in many cases they won't. Banks, I don't think, will. Google, Twitter, all those social media and IT-related companies, Microsoft, has said, why should we bother? Everyone seems happy at home. Let's keep that going. But they need to be run properly. And you also need to consider what I said before about the Moneyball idea of having staff all around the world. How are you going to keep them under your culture, under your umbrella? It's not just about the money. It is in many ways, but it's also about the fact if they like you and they enjoy doing business with you and you've got a great way of welcoming them, they feel part of your family and they will protect you by doing good stuff for you. How do you do that when it's remote? That's the HR challenge, and that's what you're going to think about. So those are the 10 essential skill sets I would say you need to have, taking stuff from the World Economic Forum and sharing with you a few of my own. I hope that's useful for you. Share with me your feedback, like it, comment, and let other people know as well, because I want to make sure that we all get through safely to the other side, regardless of what comes along. It's Speak on Stage. So wow, what an action-packed show. We started off talking about your survival tips, and hopefully from this you got a lot of ideas that you can start working on. Make notes as you go along. Tell people as well if you found something of value that's really helped you. Please feel free to tell me, because the more you tell me, the more I know what kind of stuff you can expect in the future and what kind of stuff I need to produce for you to make your journey and your experiences better. Every single day I do the show. And I love having you with me. I really do enjoy seeing all my old friends from all around the world popping up. And it literally is all around the world. Fiji, South Africa, UAE, where I'm based, London, the US, Spain, Germany. Where else have I missed out? Even today's show, there's a ton of different places that came up. It's so good to have everybody, Africa, everywhere. Let me know where you're coming from. Let me know how I can help you. Now, if you specifically want to work on the stuff that we cover on this show, and you want to become a speaker, or you want to be more effective in growing your market and your impact, then I can help you with that. I coach people individually on how to be more effective and become industry icons. Similarly, right now, if you've got a team that's wanting to be motivated and you're not sure how to go about it, I'm a motivational speaker. I did that long before we got into the lockdown. I was traveling around the world, getting people on the right page. I've got a really cool new program for you called A Brand New You, which I will show you, and that will blow you away. When you see it, you'll go, oh my goodness, want some of that. So I'll share that with you probably on tomorrow's show so you can get more ideas. And if you're planning a corporate event, if you're an event planner and you're saying, right, what can we do? Remember, the beauty of working with a virtual presenter or virtual speaker or broadcaster is you do not have to worry about anything apart from will they turn up, will the technology sustain it, and will it have the direct impact that it's meant to have. You don't have to worry about travel, you don't have to worry about catering or logistics or security of any of that stuff. Much, much cheaper. You do have to find new ways of making money if you're an event manager, but also think about the potential clients. You're not trying to plan something necessarily that just goes on in a hotel when it's booked and there's other people trying to move you in and out and the cost of logistics. You could be doing stuff all around the world to any manner or size of companies. The opportunities for people to understand it are massive, bigger than they've ever been before. So I'm really excited about everything that's coming up right now. And I think for anybody who's an effective speaker who understands what it takes to reach somebody in this new market of virtual communication, then this is just happy hour for you. And with that, it's just about come to the end of the show. Hope you enjoyed it. We've been blathering on, or I have, for almost an hour. Really, Dave? Yes, but it was really essential to share with you as much as I possibly could about what you need to do to be effective in lockdown, but still work out where your business can go and how you can deal with a second wave, and also how you can reinvent with a ton of new skills that'd be really useful for you. As usual, I'm back tomorrow to make sure that you're with me, and I'll be sharing with you some incredible stuff. I'll be sharing with you how to have a rock star attitude as you build your own personal brand. It's one thing to go out there and say, hello, how are you? Nice to see you. But people don't gravitate towards that. If it's safe, it's boring. If it's boring, then why should they bother? If you're a rock star, or you think you've got a rock star attitude in the way that you do stuff, it's cheeky, it's edgy, but it's built into our DNA. The reason why so many, in the old days, girls were attracted to the bad boy on the motorbike with a leather jacket who was always getting into trouble but didn't care is because it's built into our genetics to look for the partner. I know this sounds me being serious, and it is completely serious. It's built into our genetics to look for a partner who subconsciously lets you know that they could further the species by having kids with you that would survive. That's a big mouthful. Let me say it again. We are genetically dispositioned to look for a partner with whom we could procreate. That means, no, you wouldn't pay for it. Shouldn't do that. But you get the general idea. That's just On that note, I hope I haven't stressed you out too much. I've loved having your company with me. I can't believe I did that. I will endeavour not to do that until tomorrow at least. I love your thoughts, love your comments, I love you being with me. Spread the word, share everything, and I'll be back tomorrow. Meanwhile, I'm going to leave you with a video that I worked when I was in the Maldives called Maldives Rain. I hope you enjoy it. Take care of yourself. If you want to connect with me, I'll do a 10-minute consultation and work out how we can move you further in your career as well. Until then, take care. It's Speak on Stage. Sometimes it rains in paradise. You leave everybody behind and you look around and the rain's come down. It got to that point where you thought, I can start on my own, I can do my own thing. But then when the rain comes down, you can't tell what's behind you and you can't tell what's in front. In real terms, that means you're not really sure where you've been or where you're gonna go. So what do? Do you look for shelter? Do you look for a place to hide? A place where you can not be seen and you can lick your wounds? Or do you just test the water? Feel what it's like. Feel the consistency and make a decision. Maybe I can still do this. It doesn't matter where you are, how big you get, how powerful you are, how connected, how successful. It's always going to rain in paradise. But the big difference is, what are you going to do about it? The smart people make choices as they go. The smart people learn to deal with it as it comes. The smart people know that regardless of what happens right now, the sunshine will come out. Life will be good, and you'll get your opportunity to shine. That's why the successful people always make it to the top. When everybody else runs for cover, they get out their umbrella, they take stock of how tough the weather's going to be, and they keep moving on. Life is too short. You have the ability to stay outside in the rain. If you didn't, your skin wouldn't be waterproof. Bear that in mind, because you can enjoy an amazing experience of living life in the rain in paradise.